So, can terrorists ever be de-radicalised? I'm saying no, absolutely not. No, they cannot be. And in fact, I think we should lock them away and throw away the key and keep them in solitary confinement for the rest of their lives. Why? Because that way we know that they're not going to get anyone. We know they're not going to get at people in prison, and we know they're not going to get back out on the streets of Britain and start harming people. Sudesh Aman, remember the name, everybody, if you weren't already familiar with it. 10 days after he was released from Belmarsh, just 10 short days, he went on to stab 2 people on the streets of Streatham. He said, just before his release, I want to kill the Queen. He said he boasted of being the youngest jihadi in Belmarsh. And then he said, I want to see the black flag of ISIS flying in the UK. If that isn't, for want of a better phrase, a red flag, I don't know what is. Why on earth was this guy allowed to go out and go to the streets and go and slash people? It was absolutely staggering. It was absolutely shocking what happened there. He was in prison for no less than 13 terror offences. That's right, 13 people, 13 terror offences. He was under surveillance, supposedly 24 hours a day. So that costs us money. So we're now paying so that a jihadi can be placed under 24-hour surveillance. He then went full-time, so full-time surveillance. Then they decided, OK, we don't need to monitor this guy full-time. We don't need to monitor him full-time because he's not awake between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. So we'll knock that back off. Lo and behold, he was seen out buying the devices that you need, or the matter that you need, to go and put together a fake suicide vest, which involved apparently 4 cans of iron brew and some gaffer tape. So not exactly high-tech stuff, but it doesn't have to be, does it? It doesn't have to be. So then they put him back under 24-hour surveillance. And what happened? He left his hostel, which we're paying for. He left his hostel and he went into a shop and he stole a knife. And 63 seconds later, he was lying dead on the street. But 63 seconds was all it took for him to stab 2 people. And just like that. That's all it takes with these people. 63 seconds. They cannot be de-radicalised. And so for the sake of not locking him away and throwing him away the key and putting him in isolation, putting him in solitary forever, 63 seconds he stabbed 2 people and he got shot dead. And it's not the first one, is it? Fishmonger's Hall, do you remember that? The one that got took down by some kind of narwhal tusk by the very best of British. Well, he convinced everyone that he'd been de-radicalised. He went through an entire jihadi de-radicalisation programme and he convinced absolutely everyone that he'd been de-radicalised. He was being monitored, get this, because of his, quotes, known aspirations to commit a terror offence. Well, hang on a minute, how can you convince everyone you've been de-radicalised and then be monitored because you're known to be wanting to commit a terror offence? And they didn't arrest him again. They considered arresting him because they saw him purchasing items needed to make a fake suicide vest. They considered arresting him because he breached his curfew. Right. Okay. So 2 things there. Bingo. No, they decided not to. And then what happened? He put on a fake suicide vest and he killed people. This is an absolute scandal. He had to be shot dead on the street outside Fishmonger's Hall. Why are we doing this to ourselves? You cannot be de-radicalised. You can never truly know if someone has been de-radicalised. Now, I want your views on this. 03444991000. But here's my take, undeniably, that you cannot be de-radicalised. Karam Butt, the Borough Market terrorist, one of the Borough Market London Bridge terrorists. He was in a documentary on Channel 4, get this, called The Jihadi Next Door. I mean, what are we doing? He was seen unfurling an ISIS flag in Regent's Park. What's happening here? How much of this stuff do you have to do before we go, right, you're a terrorist, we can never trust that you will ever be de-radicalised, and so we're not going to take that chance? Because the first job of a government, the first job of a state, the first job of any kind of sane police force and sane security force is to protect people like you and I, law-abiding citizens. We need the freedom, don't we, to be able to walk down the streets and know that someone who's been in prison for terrorist offences, pledged allegiance to the caliphate and wanted to set off a bomb somewhere is not going to have got out of prison and be allowed to walk around next to you wielding a machete. In fact, Sudesh Aman was known by police to have asked his then girlfriend, have a look at her by the way, asked his then girlfriend to get him a machete. I mean, what more clues do you possibly need? Anjem Chowdhury, he's had links to pretty much every single terrorist that this country's ever had pretty much in recent years. And yet he's now allowed out. I find that absolutely astonishing. Hashem Abedi, the Manchester bomber, he was known to terrorist services. He was known to security services. He was known to MI5. He was known to MI6. He was known to the police forces. He was known to everyone to be a danger. And yet he was allowed to pack a suitcase full of explosives and wander into the Manchester arena and basically kill a load of kids. How can this be allowed to happen in this country? I've got a solution. You either deport them or you detain them forever, put them under lock and key, and indeed throw away that key because they never need to see the light of day again. And they go, okay, we all make mistakes. Yeah, we do all make mistakes. Sometimes I might go to step out into the road and I might not look both ways and I might nearly get hit by a cyclist. That's a mistake, okay? People do make mistakes. Sometimes, I might go out and I might accidentally, miss my shopping bag with a bottle of wine or something and it smashes on the floor. That's a mistake. I've made a mistake. I haven't joined a jihadi death cult, pledged allegiance to the caliphate, gone about making a nail bomb and then got on a tube with it. That's a mistake, right? That's an error. Taking steps towards that, and that's an error for which you should never see the light of day again, in my opinion, in this country. I can't believe that we're even having this conversation, apart from the fact that I can believe it. I can believe it. Because when you get on the tube, or when you get on the train, or when you get at an airport or something like that, it used to be, didn't it? Every few minutes pretty much, or every 10 minutes or whatever, you'd hear a big thing over the tannoy. Can you see any suspicious packages? Can you see anything? Call us, stop it, see it, so what is it? See it, stop it, sort it, something like that. That was the one, wasn't it? Well, what do you hear now? Please put a mask on. Please put a mask on. There's a sign on the tube. I got on a tube. We're a tolerant city. We're a tolerant city. Beware, some people don't like loud noises. Well, all right, fine. But you know what? Meanwhile, there's someone over there with a device that you've not noticed because we're not being reminded of it, because we've gone too soft. We're missing the issue. We've turned COVID into the terrorists as opposed to the real life terrorists that still exist. 03444 99 1000 is that number. Can you ever really be de-radicalised? For my money, no. And I think it works both ways, by the way. I'm not just putting this all on the jihadis. I think if you're a signed-up card-carrying Nazi, I think there's probably every single chance there that you're not being de-radicalised either. Don't misunderstand me. But what I am saying is, in this country, we have a duty to our citizens, we have a duty to ourselves, right? To protect each other. And if you can never be sure, which you can never be sure, whether or not someone has been de-radicalised once they were a signed-up terrorist, right? Then why do we take that chance? Why do we take that chance? Can you look the relatives of those two people that this guy, Sudesh Aman, in 63 seconds, after being even under 24-hour surveillance, which costs big money, stabbed two of those people? Can you look their relatives in the eye? Can you look them in the eye and say that that was fine because this guy had human rights that we need to protect? What about our human rights? What about everyone else's human rights? We've gone soft on it in this country, and I think I've absolutely had enough of it. How much more of this has to happen? And you know what? When people go, well, they deserve a second chance, don't they? Look, let's just trust him. Okay, he can move in with you. He can go and live with you. He can go and live next to your grandma. He can get on the tube and sit next to you. He can sit next to you on an aeroplane. He can walk next to you in the park. You can look after him. You can pay for him. No, it's not happening, is it? Because the type of people that make these decisions, they're not the ones who are ever seemingly caught up in all of this. This is where I am today. Can terrorists ever be de-radicalised? I've got a poll on that on Twitter, @Talk Radio. I want you to take part in it. I want you to comment in it as well. You can text us as well. You can text talking your message to 87222. You can also call me, as indeed loads of you are, and we're going to go to the phones throughout the show on this because I'm absolutely fizzing mad. 03444 99 1000. I cannot get my head around the notion that the concept of de-radicalisation even exists. If you've gone to the lengths and you've gone to the steps of not only looking into joining a terror cult, but then taking steps to actually join it, taking steps to become actively involved in it, be filmed by our security service, putting together the components of a fake suicide bomb, looking at knives, being put in prison for terror offences, boasting about killing the Queen while you're in there, boasting about being in ISIS while you're in there, getting out on probation, still doing some pretty fruity stuff. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Our priorities in this country are all wrong. We have police forces up and down the country raving the rainbow flag. We have police forces up and down the country doing silly TikTok videos. We have a London mayor who seems to care more about arts and culture and has what's his chops drawn something nice at Piccadilly Circus that a 3-year-old could stick on the fridge and his parents wouldn't even be proud of it. What about the terrorists? 03444 99 1000. Patrick Christys, Talk Radio.